Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dan, and this is Forlorn Hobbies.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now it is finally time for the next instalment of my Peninsular War terrain collection, and I have finally finished the Monastery piece for my guerrillas to defend. Now, this has taken a lot longer than I had initially thought. Between work and studying, it's been a bit few and far between in the time that I have had to spend on it. But I also kind of allowed myself to kind of think on each stage of the project more. Initially, I started off with the chapel piece that Mr. Crew got for me from JB Prince, and to go along with the farmhouse. And I wanted to do something bigger than just that piece. I wanted to integrate it into a kind of larger complex to have a bit more of a fortified kind of monastic look to it. And I think initially I started off way too big with my plans. So I wanted to have it as a compound. And in order to kind of achieve that, because I couldn't really find any prints that I thought would go along with it, I then had to source alternative materials. So I went towards the MDF terrain, which I found suitable, but pieces that needed work doing to them. So this project very quickly became not necessarily a jigsaw, but something that I kind of needed to think very carefully about in order to blend it all together with the different materials that I was going to use, because I didn't want it to look kind of clunky and out of place, where MDF obviously has a very different style compared to resin prints. And the process and the journey was kind of not necessarily trial and error, but I very much had to trust in the process, because there was many times that I was at quite a negative kind of opinion of what I was doing, and I was like, oh, is this really worth the time? I could be spending my hobby time a little bit better than kind of flailing around in the dark trying to get everything to blend in. Now, I've kind of kept little snippets of recordings throughout the process. I've not gone into a huge like how to build video, because 99% of the time I changed what I was doing in the next step, and the previous steps were irrelevant. And so I just left it in just some more so you can see the development of the journey that I went on this project. And if you're looking at how I painted it, it will be the same process as the farmhouse video. So I didn't really want to repeat each stage. I just kind of wanted to give an overview of the process itself. Now, the trouble with blending different types of materials together is that you need a kind of overall, something to blend it all and bring it together. And in this case, I decided that I would apply a kind of self-made texture paint using Mod Podge, tile grout, and a little bit of sand, whilst putting in some acrylic paint just to so I know where I've kind of covered on the model itself. And this kind of dried to give a very nice subtle render effect across all of the foam, the the MDF itself, which kind of, although different to the 3D print on the chapel building, I think really blends itself in a lot better. And it was at that stage that I really started to kind of regain hope for the project. I think before that, I was kind of just going through the motions, just trying to get it kind of done. And once I'd sprayed it all with the rattle cans going up to a kind of bone kind of zenithal, that's when I was really kind of happy with the direction that I was taking. The other major kind of conundrum I had was the tiling on the resin building was completely different to that of the kind of laser edge etched um, roofing kind of bits of MDF on the walls. And I kind of was looking at my kids' craft stuff, and they had some corrugated card in there, and I started to wonder, and eventually brainwave. And once it's all painted, I don't think you can really tell that that started out life as a kid's craft material as opposed to slated or tiled roofing. So I'm very happy with how that turned out. I also wanted to kind of elevate the chapel building to give it a prominent position within the compound. So I thought it would be good to raise it on some blue foam and obviously give it a tiled effect, but then have it kind of almost on like a little rocky outcrop. And to get that effect, I kind of built everything up and then went in at one of the last stages of building and blended in some fast drying air clay to kind of just put blobs down to kind of build a rough kind of cliff work or like kind of rock work, which I then later went back once it had slightly dried to blend all the lines together and give it a much more rocky texture. And I was very happy with how this finished. Now, it was really at that point and with the spraying that I started to really think that I was going in the right direction. I'd been umming and ahhing, kind of flailing about, trying to get to a point where I was happy to start painting. But the more I kind of went to it, I always found that I was correcting myself and going back and basically just ripping up what I had previously done. And it wasn't really until this point that I began to kind of have that belief that this project was actually going to be something that I was happy with and not just kind of give up on and chuck away. So once I'd reached that point, I was very keen to get it finished. And the end result, I think will look really nice on the tabletop. Now, I might bring it to Under Eagles to Glory in 2026, as I've said to Tim that I would more than likely be doing some terrain so that we have actual built up areas for the event as opposed to just plopping my MDF buildings down. I want to really crack on and get those done. So I think this has kind of kick-started my terrain push for Under Eagles to Glory 3, and I hope to see some of you there next year.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to
So
like and
with
subscribe.
that, I
Until
want to
next
thank
time,
you for
enjoy your
listening
hobby.
this far, and I hope I will catch you in the next one.